The Dayspring from on high hath visited us, to give light unto them that sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. Dayspring is an effort to be in touch with good people who love God and who believe that the Bible is His Word. Dayspring is brought to you by your neighbors from Churches of Christ in this area. And now, visit with us as we draw near to God.
Good to have you with us. We always enjoy your presence, and I'm delighted to know that many of you love the Bible. Thank you for coming our way today. Luke, his account of the life of Christ. Luke chapter 16, verse 15. That's where we shall begin our Bible thoughts today. That verse reads like this: He said unto them, Ye are they which justify yourselves before men, but God knoweth your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. Notice that. That which is highly esteemed among men is abomination before God. That which is exalted among men is detestable in the sight of God, is how one English version of that verse reads. Exalted among men, but detestable to God. That which is greatly disliked, often with disgust, and to the point of being intolerable. We loathe it. We hate it. There's the idea. So what men, human beings, exalt, highly esteem, God looks on entirely differently. God looks on those same things we highly esteemed as being greatly disliked, hated, abomination to Him. Think with me for a moment about this application of that great verse. Honor. Receiving honor. God sees that one way, and you and I see it perhaps another way. We remember what the Lord said back in Isaiah 55, My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. God doesn't think like we think. What we highly esteem, that He's disgusted with. 1 Corinthians 1, verse 25, The foolishness of God is wiser than men. The weakness of God is stronger than men. And now in view of that, Luke 16 and verse 15, where we began, says, That which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. Honor. Ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. Who's the Lord calling? To whom does the Lord appeal? Who will listen to Him? Not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble. Those people upon whom we would heap honor and greatly esteem are not interested in what God has to say. Isn't that unusual? Luke's account of the life of Christ in the first chapter. In the first chapter of Luke, here's what Mary, the mother of Jesus, had to say. He hath showed strength with his arm. He hath scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. He hath put down the mighty from their seats and exalted them that are of low degree. That's what Mary said, in view of the fact that she was chosen to give birth to the Son of God. Mary said he's exalted that which is low, and that which is up in high seats he's taken down. God sees honor differently to the way we see it. What we highly exalt, what we esteem, he hates. James 4 and verse 6, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Just the opposite of the way people think. We're going to give grace to those proud, highly exalted people, and those who are humble will overlook. But God does just the opposite. He resists the proud, those haughty people, and he gives goodness, grace, mercy to those who are humble. I'm turning in Luke's account to Luke chapter 14. In Luke chapter 14, beginning at verse 7, he put forth a parable to those which were bidden, when he marked how they chose out the chief rooms, saying unto them, When thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest a more honorable man than thou be bidden of him, and he that bade thee and him come and say to thee, Give this man place, and thou begin with shame to take the lower room. But when thou art bidden, go and sit down in the lowest room, that when he that hath bid thee comes, he may say unto thee, Friend, go up higher. Then shalt thou have worship in the presence of them that sit at meat with thee. For whosoever exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. Going to exalt myself and try to sit in the best seat in the house, and then I'm going to be asked to move. I sit in the very back, in the worst seat in the room, and the host comes and says to me, You've got a bad seat, come up, sit a little closer to the front. That's the way God sees things. Matthew chapter 20. In Matthew chapter 20, beginning at verse 20, Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. He said unto her, What wilt thou? She saith unto him, Grant that these my 2 sons may sit, one on thy right hand and the other on thy left in thy kingdom. Master, I want my 2 boys to get the highest positions in your kingdom. Jesus answered and said, Ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, or to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They say unto him, We are able. He saith unto them, Ye shall indeed drink of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with, but to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared of my Father. And from that point, our Lord went on to say this, ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you. For whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. And whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. The greater be the ones who humble themselves. Well, yeah, perhaps in that same setting, just a few pages over, in Matthew chapter 23, beginning at verse 5. Speaking of the scribes and Pharisees, Jesus said, all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost room at feasts, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the markets, to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But be not ye called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you, let him be your servant. And whosoever will exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. The world gives honor to certain people who are proud and haughty, who desire to be in front. And on the other hand, God exalts those who are humble. These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Number 1 on that list is a proud look. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. When Paul gave the qualifications for an elder in 1 Timothy chapter 3, among the things he said was that this man should not be a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Lifted up with pride, that's so easy to do. We overestimate our importance. We want to be on the front row. We want others to bow when we walk by. But the Lord sees things differently. The Lord sees that kind of honor as disliked. He hates it. It's an abomination to him. On the other hand, this human being who is humble and willing to serve rather than be served, God highly esteems that person. Well, let's think for a minute about the possession of money, the love of wealth. God looks at that one way, while you and I look at it entirely differently. We tend to give great honor to the person who is wealthy, who wants more and more of this world's goods. We respect and highly esteem that person. But listen to what God has to say about it. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6, godliness with contentment is great gain. In the verse preceding that, he said, you suppose that gain is godliness. Godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. Having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. But they that will be rich, that's their motive, that's their main goal, that's what they want more than anything else. They that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For The love of money is the root of all evil, which while some have coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. We think to lust after money is a great tribute to the man who does it. Just opposite, God looks with disfavor on that. Now look down with me at that same text at verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who gives us richly all things to enjoy. They that they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate. Rich man. Paul told Timothy, charge that man who is rich that he doesn't get proud and haughty, high-minded. Instead of that, charge that man that he be ready to distribute his wealth to others who need it. God sees things one way, we see things another way. What we highly esteem, God hates. God looks with disgust on it. The love of money, those who lust after money and that's their primary goal in life, we tend to put on a pedestal. But God doesn't put him there. Instead, God warns about the dangers. In Luke chapter 12, verse 16, he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man, he's already rich, brought forth plentifully. He thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? For I have no room to bestow my fruits. He said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my goods and my fruits. And I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said, thou fool, this night is thy soul required of thee. Then whose shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasure for himself, but is not rich toward God. God looks on that wealth one way, and this man looked on that wealth another way. It was all for him. God said, you're going to die and leave it all to somebody else. And that's the way a man is, who lays up treasure for himself. We honor that man. We think he's very intelligent, powerful. He lays up money. But God said he's a fool, because he's going to leave it all to somebody else. And that's the way a man is, who lays up treasure for himself, but he is not rich toward God. In the book of James, chapter 5, at verse 1, James wrote, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, cries. And the cries of them that have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. Rich men, extremely wealthy men, who weep and howl. Their cries ascend up. They're in misery. But we look on such people as that as great conquerors. Here is a person who has succeeded in life because he's got more money than anybody in town. But God looks on it differently. What we highly esteem, God looks on with disgust. So God has one point of view, and we often have an entirely different point of view. As Luke's record says, what men highly esteem is abomination with God. Let's take one step further. Not just earthly honor, not just the love of money, but think with me for a minute about physical attractiveness. When Samuel was out in search of a new king for Israel, he came upon the boy whom he thought was the ideal candidate. He looked the part. And he said to himself, "This is the one." But God spoke to him. 1 Samuel 16 and verse 7, God said, "Samuel, look not on his countenance, nor on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man sees. The man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks upon the heart." Here's a young man who was physically attractive. He fit the part. But God looked on the inside of him. Physical attractiveness means one thing to human beings, but it doesn't mean that same thing to God. You may be the most handsome man in the county, but that doesn't count anything with God if your heart's not right. God looks on the inside. Physical attractive doesn't account with him. Solomon said in Proverbs 31, "Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised." Doesn't matter how beautiful a woman is, if she doesn't fear God, on the inside she's ugly. So we read, for instance, in the book of 1 Timothy, in the New Testament, in 1 Timothy chapter 2, at verse 9, Paul wrote, "In like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly array, but which becometh women professing godliness with good works." There's nothing wrong in a woman wanting to dress attractively. That's not what that passage teaches. But what it does teach is that there's a part of her that's more important. If the inside of her is not dressed appropriately, then she's not attractive. 1 Peter chapter 3, at verse 1, "Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they may also without a word be won by the conversation of the wives, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear, whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair, wearing of gold, or putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price." What's on the inside is what counts. The outside may be attractive. God may have blessed you with a body that is attractive to other people, and that's all fine and good. And to keep that body, to dress it appropriately, and to put on apparel that reflects your good behavior, all of that's fine and good. It's what's on the inside that makes us attractive to God. And that should also count for something among us. But if we're not careful, we'll place great honor on somebody who has an attractive appearance, we'll highly esteem that person. We'll elect them the most beautiful or the most handsome and give them honor and respect. But at the same time, God may look on that person with disgust, not because that person may be handsome or beautiful, but because on the inside that person is not the same. God does not look on the outward appearance like a man does, but God looks on the heart. So God has an entirely different perspective. And Luke 16, verse 15 says, "What man highly esteems, God counts as an abomination." A challenging verse. There are so many other applications we could make of that verse, but remember, what men honor, quite often God looks on as an abomination. Those whom we respect because they have great love for money and can collect it, God looks on, perhaps, with disgust. People we look on because they're attractive and pay great honor to them, God looks on and sees something different. They're rotten on the inside. God sees not as man sees. So what men highly esteem, God counts as abomination. Thank you for letting us share this great lesson with you. We hope that you'll continue to think about it. Until the next time, may the goodness of God be yours in full measure.
You've been watching Dayspring. Dayspring is brought to you by your friends in local area churches of Christ. To request a free CD of today's lesson, you may contact us at Dayspring, Post Office Box 453, Tupelo, Mississippi 38802, 0453. There is no cost for this offer. You will not be asked for financial support. You can also phone your request toll-free at 1-866-842-4139. Or you can go to our website at dayspringtv.com. Thank you for visiting with us on Dayspring. May your joy be full. May the peace of God rule in your hearts. And may the light of Christ brighten heaven's way.